Hi everyone, my name is Scott and I'm a runner. Welcome to the Run Scotty Run YouTube channel. So in this video, part 4 of my 8 marathons in 8 months, I wanted to run through the last 4 marathons that I ran January through April of 2008. If you haven't watched any of the other previous videos, I'm going to leave a link to the playlist down below. Pardon me. I encourage you to go check those out so you'll have sort of some idea why I was taking on this crazy challenge and how I got to this point running the final 4 of 8 marathons in 8 months. All right, so as a reminder, if you haven't watched those previous videos, I wanted to try and run all the marathons in or around about 5 hours, and up till this point, other than a bit of a stumble, self-induced stumble on my 3rd marathon, the Route 66 marathon in Tulsa, I was actually pretty darn close to being right around 5 hours, give or take a couple minutes. So anyway, let's get into it. So the first marathon that I ran in 2008 was the Chevron Houston Marathon, and I'd had I guess 5 weeks from the previous one that I ran in December of 2007, which was the Dallas White Rock Marathon. I was really excited about both the Dallas and especially the Houston Marathon, because the Houston Marathon, it's a big marathon. I think the year that I ran it, there was actually 10,000 people in the marathon. They had us split into 2 waves of 5,000 based on your predicted finishing time. I had seen it advertised in Runner's World and things like that for many years. So I was pretty excited about the Houston Marathon. So here's the bling. Here's the medal, the Chevron Houston Marathon 2008. And it was kind of nice. They didn't, it says on the back here, on January 13th, I finished the 2008 Chevron Houston Marathon, which they had actually engraved in there. So that's kind of nice, really nice medal there. So I drove from Norman, Oklahoma. It was about a 5 hour, maybe 5 hour plus drive. So I drove down, I left pretty early on the Saturday morning, drove down, and I managed to get a hotel, Holiday Inn. I think it was a Holiday Inn or Holiday Inn Express that was like literally 1 block away from the start line and the big John Brown, I think it was the John Brown Convention Center where the expo was. So that worked out really well. I just, got to the hotel and I just went straight to the expo because it was just a block down the street. Picked up my package and walked around, checked out some of the stuff, and then I thought, well, I've been in a car for over 5 hours, so I got back to the hotel and then just kind of stretched out. And anyway, race morning, walked down again to the start line. Blessed again with perfect conditions. The sun, it was actually sunny, but the temperatures were very cool. I think, maybe in the 50s. It was, again, perfect for me anyway. Perfect marathon conditions. And so we got to the start line area, and they had the first wave was, I can't remember, the first wave sort of lined up to the left of where the second wave was, and I was in the second wave, and then I tried to seed myself. I don't remember there being a 5 hour pacer at the Houston Marathon. There might have been, but anyway, so the first wave took off 5 minutes or maybe 10 minutes before the second wave. So that was fine. There had been plenty of porta potties around and everything. It wasn't any, big problem. It was the first marathon I'd ever done where I sort of had to stand around in a corral for 15 minutes or so. But anyway, the first wave took off, and then we took off. Overall, the course, I found the course was, it was probably the flattest of all the marathons that I ran in this series of 8. Lots of people around, lots of energy. The crowd was just great. And then it was kind of nice because they had at some of the fairly significant mileages, they had big digital clocks So my wave, I think, was blue. So, you know, if you saw the blue clock where the digits were blue, that was, you know, your split time, and that one on the top was the first wave, which I think was red, and it was in red. So that was very cool. I knew exactly where I was going. So one kind of cool thing that happened, and I didn't realize sort of it happened until after I was past that point. You know, I'm running along, and it is because there's so many people there, even at, you know, back in the 5 hour, where the 5 hour folks were, there was a lot of people around. And all of a sudden, you know, I hear quite a bit of excitement, and a lot of people start running over to the side of the road. You know, and there was quite a crowd of people, but I couldn't see sort of what the buzz was because of, you know, all the people that were running over there. And I just, you know, I was navigating, trying not to run into anybody because there's people, excited people cutting across. And I thought, oh, you know, in my head, I'm thinking, oh gosh, I hope, you know, somebody hasn't gone down or fallen or anything. Pardon me. So I kept on going. And anyway, about 3 or 4 minutes later, this woman that had been running sort of with me, she comes up beside me, I guess, because, you know, I'm a big guy. I'm built like a Coke machine with a head. So she must have picked me out in the crowd maybe to follow along because we were running close to the same pace. And you know, I looked over at her and I said, is everything okay? And she said, oh yeah, it's really exciting. And she was putting her bib back on. And I said, oh, did your bib fall off? She said, oh, no. President Bush Sr., GHW Bush Sr., and Mrs. Bush, Barbara Bush, were actually on the side of the road spectating. May they both rest in peace. But they were on the side of the road spectating. So a lot of people ran over there. You know, and he would have had Secret Service and everything else around him. But she shows me, she's like, look, he signed my bib. So she got the, you know, President Bush's senior autograph. So that was kind of cool. So anyway, it was a beautiful race. I really, really enjoyed it. You know, the energy, because it was the biggest marathon I guess I've ever run. You know, with all that many people around. So there was lots of people around. The aid stations were, you know, unbelievably well run, well manned. It was without a doubt one of the best organized marathons I'd ever run. So I finished that one in 4:58:07. You know, feeling pretty good. And as I mentioned in my last video, I'm a real breakfast guy. Like, you know, if you were to give me the choice between pizza and, you know, going to Denny's for a double grand slam or something, I would take Denny's just about hands down every time. So anyway, I didn't realize that this was going to be the case. So we finish by the John Brown Convention Center, which I mentioned before, and I walk in there and I get hit with this smell of fried bacon and hash browns and toast, and I'm like, oh God, did I die on the course? I mean, I think I'm in heaven. So anyway, I walk in there, and HEB, which is it's a huge grocery store chain in Texas, they had sponsored the post-race meal, and it was actually a full buffet, full sit down. You know, you went and got your food, and then there was tons and tons of tables around. So they had scrambled eggs, pancakes, bacon, sausage. I think they might have had like some huevos rancheros, maybe some breakfast tacos, something like that. Coffee, and they were handing out the race. You know, as you got your medal, you actually got this big etched, engraved beer stein with the Houston Marathon logo on it. So of course I got that filled up with coffee, and you know, yeah, it was. I mean, luckily that time I was not driving back home, because I took full advantage of that. I mean, without a doubt, to this day, it was the best post-race food I've ever experienced at the Chevron Houston Marathon. So yeah, it was really great. You know, I didn't get to see them, but I guess I ran, you know, close to President Bush Sr. and Mrs. Barbara Bush. So that was kind of cool. Okay, so next up was the breast cancer marathon in Jacksonville, Florida on February 17th. So about 5 weeks, I guess, between races. And as I mentioned earlier in one of my videos, it was actually the inaugural year of the breast cancer marathon. My mother at the time had survived breast cancer. I think she'd been clear of breast cancer for I think it was 10 years. I might have been the 10-year anniversary year. Unfortunately, she was taken from us about 7 or 8 in 2013 by another cancer. But anyway, at that time, she was surviving and flourishing, or had survived and was flourishing. So I had a special connection to that race, because of my mother, and sadly because of many other people over my life. I was in my mid-40s at that time, and sadly over my life at that point, many people in my life had been affected somehow by breast cancer. So anyway, here's the medal again. It was the inaugural. It was actually called the 26.2 Run with Donna. I apologize, I can't remember the lady's last name, but she was an actual local news anchor, and she wrote a book, marathon. She was a marathoner as well, and I think she at that time had fought off breast cancer twice. Anyway, and she ran the race as well. So it's the ribbon that holds it is really nice. Now, the National Marathon to Fight Breast Cancer is what it's called. And yeah, beautiful medal. The National Marathon to Fight Breast Cancer right on the medal. So yeah. So anyway, it was, I did this one at the start of about a 2.5 week holiday that I was on. So I drove down there. I took 2 days to drive down, stayed in, I think, Hattiesburg, Mississippi or something like that on the way down there. Got down there the day of the expo, check-in, no problem, picked up the package. And then there was ample parking around the start area, so I was actually staying in a hotel. Oh no, that's right. There were shuttle buses there as well to several of the hotels. So I stayed in a hotel where the shuttle bus served. So I was able to leave my car at the hotel and take a shuttle bus down to the start. So it was warm already. Like training in Oklahoma City. Before that, in February, late January, early February, Fahrenheit, the temperatures were like in the 50s, which I think 10 or 12 degrees Celsius seems to ring a bell. Anyway, at the race start that morning, it was already about 65 Fahrenheit and humid. Jacksonville being right on the Atlantic Ocean, and it warmed up quite a bit. I think the high by early afternoon was close to 80 with the humidity. So that definitely was a gut check, and unfortunately I made a serious rookie mistake. For whatever reason, I decided to I don't normally care much about fashion, but I decided to go with I think my hat was red and my singlet was like a dark red and my shorts were black. So unfortunately those soaked in a lot of heat. So the heat definitely got to me. And then, there were a lot of other people running that race who had family members who were survivors, or, I talked to some women themselves and even a couple of men, because men can get breast cancer as well, who were survivors. And sorry, I'm getting a little choked up remembering it. But, I was talking to them and listening to their stories, and the emotion, I guess at times, it kind of overwhelmed me a little bit. And I was, but in the moment at the time, to me, it was important to, to listen to these people and, feed from their strength and their energy more than meeting my 5 hours. Especially, when I got to the halfway point, I realized that the 5 hour was not going to be there. I just wanted to keep running. I was doing the survival shuffle several times in the second half, but that was okay. In my heart and in my head, I was running this marathon for reasons bigger than myself. And, because I had talked to several people and shared in their stories, my heart was definitely full. So anyway, I finished that one in 6 hours and 4 minutes and 43 seconds. But, I came away from that because of the experience. I definitely came away from that strengthened and fulfilled, just because of why the race existed and people that I that I ran into during the. Well, I didn't physically run into them, but that I spoke with. Especially there was one lady. I wish I could remember her name, but she hung out with me. I think we finished together, ran maybe the last 4 or 5 miles together, and she was in her early 50s, I think, and she had lost her mother to breast cancer, and her daughter, who was in her mid-20s, had also just been diagnosed with it, but she was doing really, really well. So I gave her my best, and oh goodness. Anyway, so it was a bigger experience than me, and I'm so happy that I went to do it, even though the conditions were tough. We did get to run on the beach. There was a section, I think, of over a mile where we actually ran on the beach, Jacksonville Beach, right beside the ocean. So that was good. So anyway, the time, as I walked away from that, the time was not important. The experience definitely was, and that, sometimes that's just how life goes. So anyway, before I start shedding tears here, I'll move on to the next one. So the next one I was actually still on vacation, and this was the shortest turnaround time that I was going to have. I only had 2 weeks between the breast cancer marathon in Jacksonville, Florida, and the Little Rock Marathon. Get a load of this, Blaine. The Little Rock Marathon in Little Rock, Arkansas. Now, this was the second time that I had run this race. I ran it in 2007 as well. And I remember, long before I moved down to the States, reading in Runner's World magazine and seeing ads for the Little Rock Marathon as having the world's largest marathon medal. And they sure weren't lying, because this one's actually just a bit bigger, I think, than the one I had previously. But the 2006 medal had like a little spinning globe in the middle of it. So this was very cool. The theme was 6 in the city. The two race directors at the time, I think they maybe are both ladies. So they did a 6 in the city, Sex in the City takeoff, I guess, at the time, because the TV series Sex in the City was big in those days. So anyway, so that's the bling from the Little Rock Marathon. So I was on holiday when I drove down there. So drove down. I was familiar with it from the year before. The expo, where to get everything, and so that went really smooth. I stayed at a hotel. I actually stayed at the same hotel as where I stayed in 2006, and it was only I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 blocks walk down to the start line. So this one as well, I ran with a 5 hour pacer. I didn't end up finishing in 5 hours. I think I finished in 5:23:09. I think by this time, some of the fatigue of all of the marathons prior was starting to catch up. My legs were they were getting pretty tired. But I managed to stay with the 5-hour pacer up until I think about 20 miles, and then that's when I didn't feel like I hit the wall, like I didn't bonk or anything. I had the energy, but I just, my legs were telling me, they were barking at me a bit. And so anyway, I just enjoyed the experience and finished it. And fortunately, the guy that we ran with again was from Little Rock, and he was just an unbelievable history buff about the history of Little Rock, and a lot of places that we ran by. He was very informative, so that was a great distraction, especially as things were getting a bit tough. It's definitely I remember the first year I did it, they had this kind of, I think you could get like bumper stickers and socks, and they said, "Hills? What hills?" Because the Little Rock Marathon, I remember I seem to remember there was a few gentle rolling hills. You run by the presidential library, Bill Clinton's library, and you run by the state capitol, or where the governor lives, the governor's residence. And then at the halfway point, the marathoners and half marathoners, when I did it, the 2 times I did it, are mixed together. And then just at about, I don't know if it was maybe 12.5 miles, the marathoners or the half marathoners all peel off, and then you sort of run right towards the state capitol building, and then you make a right turn, and then I want to say it's maybe at about 14 miles, there's this long, it's the longest hill I've ever run in a marathon. I want to say I don't know, I could be exaggerating, but it seemed to me like it was about 2 miles long. And then you get to the top of that hill, and then you actually lose that elevation in less, so it's a fairly even steeper downhill to lose that elevation. And then you get, I was still with the pacer then, and then you get to the bottom of that hill, and then you actually run along the river, but you're running away from downtown, and then you see other people for quite a long time, and then you see other people who are ahead of you going back the other way. So that's a bit mentally challenging, but the hospitality, the environment there in Little Rock, Arkansas, it was just amazing. The people were so gracious and supportive and cheering us on everywhere. So I guess probably I had my dark patch. Maybe I started to fall off the pacer at about 18 miles or so, because I think my dark patch was between 18 and 22 miles, and then I kind of got my second wind. I guess I was like an old stable horse, because I remember there is, after you've run this flat section along the river, there is another bit of a hill, and then you're getting back into town, into the city. And I think it was actually kind of cool. I was these are the crazy things you think about after you've been running for over 5 hours. The ladies, the race directors had actually put a lipstick aid station at about, I guess it was about 25.5 miles. I mean, I don't think they'd be able to do that now in the pandemic, but so, ladies could actually stop and do their lipstick, I guess, for their finishing photo. And it was actually, half out of it hallucinating or something. I was actually thinking, oh yeah, my buddies would think this is really cool if I ran across the finish line with lipstick on. And then I thought, no, you'll be all right, man. Just keep going. So anyway, off we went, and we finished that one. So yeah, so 5:23:09. I was happy with that time. Like I said, I physically, other than the breast cancer marathon, where the heat did kind of kick me in the butt there, heat and humidity, because it was 20 plus degrees warmer Fahrenheit than what I had been used to in Oklahoma. This was the first time physically that I was feeling a bit of accumulation of fatigue, but I'm not disappointed with 5:23. And again, the experience of running the Little Rock Marathon and learning a lot about the city while I was running with the pacer was well worth it. So yeah, I didn't get my 5-hour time, but it was well worth it. Okay, so and then I wrapped up. The last one I ran was the Oklahoma City Memorial, and I have 2 medals here. I just wanted to show both of them because this one I actually ran with my squadron that I was working with or that I was part of. I ran, they asked me to be part of their relay team, so I ran the first leg of the relay. I think it was 10K, 6 miles was my leg. So, I ended up with two medals for the price of one, I guess. So this is this is the medal. This is the if you're not familiar with the Oklahoma City story, this elm tree was right across from the building that was bombed in the bombing in 1995, and it survived. And so that's a bit of a symbol of survival. So I had run this marathon twice before, in 2005 and 2006. So I was very familiar with it. It's an early morning start. It's also, again, it's a bit motivational, or a bit, it's very motivational, but it's also a bit emotional, because you're starting right at the one of the walls at the memorial there, that where the building used to be for the bombing. It's very touching. And then as you run through the communities, there's banners close to where people who sadly died in the bombing, close to where they lived, their names and things like that. So anyway, it's a very special marathon to me, because I did it 3 times. So yeah, so this, I don't think there was a 5-hour pacer. And I knew that this was my last marathon of the 8. And I was actually moving back to Canada about 2 months after that. So this was kind of, this was my last marathon while living in the United States. So I took my time a little bit more. I wasn't so much worried about the 5-hour time in this one. I just took my time and really soaked up the experience of the run. I finished in 5 hours, 9 minutes and 16 seconds. And, it was also very special for me to get to be part of a relay team with my squadron mates, many of whom I had worked with the entire time, or I'd known the entire 4 years that I was stationed on exchange at Tinker Air Force Base. So that was a very special experience. So yeah, Oklahoma City Memorial Marathon, just a great marathon. Huge. The expo was huge. Check-in was really good, and because I lived in Norman, I was only, I think, to get downtown, it was maybe a half-hour drive. And then, I just jumped in the car and drove home afterwards. It was really nice, because many of my squadron mates who didn't run in the relay, they had come down to the finish line area. And I guess by then especially among some of the younger guys that I work with, I was sort of starting to develop this bit of a reputation as, that crazy old Canadian guy that runs all these marathons. So it was kind of cool to see them, shaking hands with them and, kibitzing and chucking back and forth as military guys do. And it was also, because I was actually retiring when I came back there in 2008. So that was really special, because I knew, once I retired, I wasn't going to have that camaraderie again. And it was really special that these guys made the effort to come down and see us all that were on the relay team. So that made it even more special. So there you have it, folks. There's the second 4 of the 8 marathons that I ran. I hope that you found some of my little stories interesting. I did get a bit choked up there talking about the breast cancer marathon. But anyway, it's amazing. That was, very close now to 14 years ago. And I still, some of the memories I have of that event and the people that I met and listening to their stories and how breast cancer affected their lives, it still, still gets me in the feels, I guess is the saying. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this series, this video and this series up until this point. I'm going to do one more video where I kind of talk about wrapping up, the takeaways and things that I experienced over this 8-month period and doing all of these marathons. So I hope that you'll stay tuned for that. Hopefully I'll get that done in the next couple of days. So I appreciate you staying. I know we're over a half an hour now. I appreciate you staying here till the end of the video if you have. I appreciate you watching. Remember now, no matter how big you are, how old you are, your shape, your size, how far you run or how fast you run, if you run, you are a runner. I wish you all the best in your running adventures, and I look forward to seeing you in future videos. Thank you and take care.